Check. Are we live?
Oh, hello.
Oh, hello.
Bip y'all.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch. I never told you to turn this poverty to gold to claim our youth, but feel so old. I'm standing too close to the rail. I'm trembling terribly, turning pale. Come push me, baby, while I'm frail. Go twist the story, sell the tale. We were walking to my car. You turned and said, I don't know who you are anymore. We were driving in my car. You turned and said, I don't care who you are anymore. But now we're crashing in my car. The car comes to a stop. I tried my best to be yours alone, but you'd agree that I'm better in the company of who speaks of retribution, how revenge can set us free. So now I'm climbing out the car, would've cut your seatbelt, but I forgot who you are, so I watched the car melt. I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch. I never told you to turn this poverty to gold to claim our youth, but feel so old. I'm standing too close to the rail. I'm trembling terribly, turning pale. Come push me, baby, while I'm frail. Go twist the story, sell the tale. You were walking towards the light. You turned and said, I don't think this is right anymore. And now you've reached the end of the line, and everything is not fine anymore. I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch. I never told you to turn this poverty to gold to claim our youth, but feel so old. I'm standing too close to the rail. I'm trembling terribly, turning pale. Come push me, baby, while I'm frail. Go twist the story, sell the
Check. Let's check these microphones while I find another song. Because we're playing through Pro Tools today. Say
Check
hi.
two.
Oh,
Hello.
hi. It's Nick.
It is me. Hey.
How's it going?
Oh, you know. It's Wednesday.
Oh, yeah. We did it. We're there.
The best day of the week.
Could I get you to turn that one down just a little bit? I feel weird having this. No, not me. You're the laptop. Yeah. I've got all these. Oh, okay.
See what you did
How's
there.
it going, Amp? Who's in the chat so far?
I saw Amp. I saw Q is on a plane.
Q is on a plane. Yeah, it's Kim. What's the show that with fucking what's his name, Tim Allen, and the neighbor always stood. Home Improvement,
Yeah.
and the neighbor always stood. You never saw like the neighbor's face because he always stood like with the fence. And like even on episodes where they had him like full body, there was always something in front of his face. That's Kim. That's how Kim works. All right. I'm gonna let's see. What was that? Name Storms. Let's see if I've got some other music. I don't know the name of any of these songs.
Just
This
gonna
is
have some fun.
a friend of mine that sent me stuff. So All right, maybe you can turn up just a little. I just don't. Mic sound good? Cool. That's good to know.
Might go green, but not red.
We actually, like, the first time we plugged it in and played it through Pro Tools, it almost blew Kim's shit. So that's good. Let's see what this song is. This is a fun one.
I said I'm burning down the jungle, baby. From the top, the highest perch upon earth. Oh, starving pride. Till one decides to eat the other first. Refuse the hunt, confuse the kill. We fear the flood, we die of thirst. Oh, starving pride. Now I'm down on all fours with my face in the dirt.
So you're saying you want me to just master this even louder? Is that what this is? All right. Let me switch over. Do you want to switch? What's going on with that? Oh. That's wild looking. All right, let me switch songs. I'm going to go back so that we have something to do with the vocals, because today I want to talk about building a vocal chain, doing some mixing, and then maybe even doing some light mastering. Let me check this real quick. Yup. All right. Yeah, it's the same normal group of bots. All right. Hey, Q, do you think that because the title's different is not reaching out? I feel like us changing it has thrown people off. All right. Let me find this song. Go here. Do you want to switch over so it's my on screen? Yeah. We're gonna try this. Oh, I see. How's everybody doing? What's going on in the chat?
I was like, what's that noise?
Kim's playing her own soundtrack going on, and we're like, what the fuck is going on? What's going on in the chat? Who's there? Give a wave. Viuda, what's good? We got a little, we're gonna do a little bit of mixing today. Where's Brody Zen? He's the one that was like super excited about this.
Yeah.
I feel like the algorithm's like taking its sweet time today. All right.
Put that little old
There you
Discord
go.
plug in
Yeah,
there.
get the Discord going on. Somebody wake up the Discord. Give it a shake. Go in there and yell.
Okay. Hey, mods, please don't kill me. Don't mention everyone. Tag.
Oh.
Just wake up.
I think all of us are the mods anyway, so.
I mean, I'm not, but that's why. That's why.
Okay,
I
fair,
said, that's why I said sorry.
fair. Yeah, gonna try it. All right, let's see if this works. Hey, all right. You're buffering every 30 seconds. We're gonna do mixing techniques, vocal chains, and we're gonna do some mastering today. Surprise! That's amazing. I can't believe we got that to work. Stock plugin session. I could do. I could break down some of these in terms of stock plugins. I think it like depends on what DAW you're using. So I guess that's like a good place to start is like talking about like what are we gonna get into. I think I'm gonna show you like a variety of plugins, but the idea is basically the same. Like, so I'm gonna start talking about like vocal chains. I got Nick here. He's gonna tell us how it sounds from a consumer standpoint.
Yes. Not a technical standpoint.
Not a technical standpoint. So and then I'm gonna so basically like the plugins that I use might be different than what you use, but really what I'm trying to get at is like the idea of how vocal chains work. And so that way we can like if you see how it's built in terms of like maybe not stock plugins, but very like the rudimentary, like the ideas of how the plugins are ordered. Because there's so much that you can do. There's like a bazillion plugins. But if your underlying idea is right, then you can it doesn't matter what plugins I use. What's up, Deidre? How's it going? Doing some cool stuff today.
And we got a Spacejhit.
Spacejhit's here.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna turn it this way.
And so what's the nickname for JVS tonight?
Well, I mean, we're not reviewing, so
Yeah, that's fair.
this song is a friend of mine. He sent me me and him worked pre-COVID, and it's just my friend Brandon. He does he does Fruity Loops stuff. I'll play a little bit for you if you want.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch. I never told you turn this poverty to gold to claim our youth, but feel so old. I'm standing too close to the rail. I'm trembling, terribly turning pale. Come push me, baby, while I'm frail. Go twist the story, sell the tale.
What's up, Dollar Water?
Walking to my car, you turned and said, I don't know who you are anymore. We were driving in my car, you turned and said, I don't care who you are anymore. But now we're cracking.
All right. So that's kind of what we're getting into, some fun stuff. But he does a lot of like Fruity Loop stuff. What we have here is some Pro Tools. I'm not going to do stock, but I am going to go from scratch. And so, yeah, I just kind of want to show you guys the basics of building a vocal chain. And then like once you have the ideas of how to build a vocal chain, then you can translate it to like whatever plugins that you want. Whatever plugins I use, there's equivalents in all of the DAWs. So I'm not trying to be specific. This is just what I use and what I'm comfortable with. Yeah, Q is on a plane right now. Yes, today is just me doing this.
That hashtag nerd talk.
Nerd, yeah, I can get very nerdy. I don't know, like, you guys know that this is what I do, right? Like, this is my room. Here, do you want the tour? Do you guys want the tour? I'll give you the tour
Oh my
of
God.
the studio.
Is it? It's the tour cam.
It's the tour cam. Kim's gonna fire up the tour cam. What's up? Oh, did it restart it? All right, let me know when you're good. Oh yeah, it restarted.
There it is.
Oh, did it switch it here? Is it on the main? There we go. All right, so this is my mastering studio. This is the console. There it is. This came from Sony. This was up in the Sony studios. Um, and then my boss here went up to Sony and bought it. So some major albums have definitely been done on this. To the left over here, we've got a TC Electronics TC6000, which is a pretty famous reverb and loudness metering system. Over here, we've got the Trinov room correction. So this room is under full room correction the whole time. Over here, we've got some outboard gear, including Millennial De-ess EQ, and a Dangerous Backs, among other things, and a Crane Song SCT8. And then over here behind Kim, we have, in the dark, we've got the Shadow Hills. This is the compressor of doom and justice and all good things. Yeah. And then for the speakers, I've got 3 pairs, actually. You can kind of see it behind the light. We've got a Genelec, we've got PMCs, and then we've got Neumann speakers. That's my office. You can switch us back. There's the roof. What am I stuck on? That is the Shadow Hills compressor. Like it doesn't have a name. It just is.
Pay for a studio session. How
Yeah,
much?
go to the website.
Yep.
You'll know. This is the room I work out of when I do mastering and stuff like that. What color are the lights? So the walls are yellow. So the lights are normal, like blue and pink kind of, but the yellow makes it look like a weird color. All right, so let's talk about making vocal chains, because this is good for you. This information is good for you. Cool. I'm gonna take this track. This is our main vocal line, like our chorus line, and I'm just gonna turn off all of the plugins that I've got on it. And so feel free to ask or comment or whatever. Like I said, I'm what color? Oh, the lights to the Shadow Hills. The lights are green. The lights are like a green. I don't have it on right now. Yeah, you want to turn it on? It's the big switch to your right, all the way down. Right there. There you go. Do you want to switch the camera?
It's like a greenish blue.
Yeah.
More green than blue, though.
Boy, it really is giving you a hard time, huh? There you go. Did it switch? They're kind of it's bright in here. Yeah, they're a green color. And then this thing right there, that's the actual optical. So there you go. All right, switch is back. Cool. It's a party.
We're doing it live.
There's a different one with red lights. Interesting. Oh, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. No, this is the original compressor. Like the compressor, the one that you have to wait like 18 months to get for them to hand build it for you. All right. So, important thing to talk about when we talk about like building vocal chains. You've heard Q and I talk about like building effect sends. You've heard me talk about like parallel compression. So when we talk about like when we talk about plugins and putting a whole bunch of plugins in order, when you do you know any like electrical stuff?
Well, I do know that you usually want to put things in a particular order. Otherwise, they usually really screw up pretty darn quickly.
Yeah. So when you go one into the next, into the next, into the next, you've got serial. And when you've got like things that are running simultaneously, you got parallel. And that works in mixing. That works in electronics.
It works in cooking too.
It works in cooking too. It works in cars. Yeah. Like, so, but this is an important thing. So today when we're building, and like everybody knows that the hot word is gain staging. So, when we get into gain staging, we're talking about a serial setup. And so gain staging is important. You can see like on this right here, it's a pretty good volume coming in. Like in Pro Tools, we can do our like clip gain, so we could take it down. But the big thing is that we want everything pretty consistent. So we start at the beginning of setting everything up to get like a consistent loudness. So like sometimes when you record, your stuff will come in and it'll be like this big. So you're gonna want to you're gonna have a hard time if it's like this much information. You're gonna have a hard time like getting your compressors and getting like your dynamic based stuff, or even like your reverbs and effects to like kind of sound very full if you're working with a signal that's like very like underwhelming. So the first step that you can do is just pull up the volumes to like maybe as maximum as it'll go. If you've got Pro Tools or if your DAW allows it, Pro Tools can do, where are you? Where's the normalize? There it is. Pro Tools can just do a normalized function through the audio suites. So, oh, hey.
Now, Alex, question for you.
What's up?
So, talking about getting a small signal to begin with, could that also be circumvented a little bit by having kind of a better setup and everything, and actually doing like dry runs, making sure that your gain levels are set
Yeah.
to where you don't have to do as much?
Yeah. So you'll like when you record, but that's the thing is like every now and then when you record in Pro Tools, you think that you're getting a lot of signal, and then it comes in it's like teeny tiny. Spacejhit asks a really good question: is changing the size the same thing as amplifying? In Pro Tools, there's two versions of changing the size. I'm using. If I zoom in, oh, it does. I'm using the actual like clip gain function in Pro Tools. But what's important, again, this is all gain staging. Like if you do Pro Tools, you have to understand that clip gain comes first, and then the clip gain volume goes into the plugins at that level. So if I was to just simply take this volume and turn it up, that volume, the fader volume, is the last in the whole chain. So if I do whatever, if I make it like really quiet or really loud, and then I do the actual like fader on the channel, all I'm doing is all of the effects, just turning those up and down. So that's an important factor if you want to have like good compressions and you want your compressor really pumping. Turning your output fader or your channel fader up and down isn't really going to have any factor in how your compressor is working. So the other thing too in Pro Tools is I can actually, probably most DAWs, I can take the actual track size and adjust it, and that's not doing any amplifying. So it's just good to know the difference. Like this is a visual thing. The clip gain is actually turning it up and down, and you can kind of see the decibel level. Oh, all right, now it wants to zoom in. Hello. Okay, there it is. Okay, let's try zooming in that way. There we go. So yeah, you can actually see in there. Clip gain is pre-fader. Yep, exactly. And it's also pre-signal flow, the entire thing. So that's what I'm saying. Like if the first thing that you put in here is a compressor, if you go to your clip gain here, it will affect the compressor after it. Oh, Wild Kim is in the shot. All right, so like that's like most of your stuff. Yeah, so if it comes in quiet, that's okay. Just turn it up. Just turn it up till it's like good and in the level. If I like expand this out a little bit, you can see that it's pretty solidly a good block of audio. So let's get into it, shall we? So now we get into like all the questions, like what comes first, where are you going to put it in the chain, and why is it important if you do it? There's always like it depends. Like the first thing that I learned when I was doing vocal chains was to do like EQing first, which didn't make any sense to me. And then later on, I started developing my own, and it made way more sense. For example, it was like EQ, auto-tune, and then something else. And I was like, no, because sometimes when you hit auto-tune hard enough, it makes actual artifacts. So you want the ability to go auto-tune EQ, so that way you can just take out the artifacts. I know, like if anybody does Melodyne, like Melodyne pushed hard enough can get really like serious artifacts. So take that into account when you're doing stuff like what comes next. So for me, the very first thing that I tend to do if it's needed, I will put a gate. I'll just put a gate on it. What a gate's going to do is it's going to just clean up all of the quiet spots. That. So if I like play, let me highlight this. If I play just this.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch. I never told to turn this poverty to gold, to claim our youth, but feel so old.
So he's like punching in and out because I have my gate set pretty high. I could pull this way up here, way down here. So that way he's always.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did.
And I'm using like a very fast attack and a very like variable long release. Your range is how far once the sound goes past the quiet point. Your range is how quiet it's going to go in decibels. So the maximum this is going to go right now is minus 40 decibels. So I'm going to take this. I could go like minus 80, which is like straight to silence. Whenever this isn't like open, it's going to be like straight silence. And so I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to take this floor and raise it. So it's just going to drop by like minus 5 decibels, which means that anytime that there's like a breath, anytime that there's like, I mean, he's like, what he's doing is very staccato. So it's like either on or off, and the gate's going to match that. So we have this.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not.
And we're looking here
to
see like how much it's actually taking out. And so, yeah, now we're letting a gate do all the work of like cleaning up what we've got going on. You good?
I think also it might be a thing to say that
Can I just use shitty mixes and pretend I'm edgy? The goal is to make really good mixes and then make them look shitty.
I was gonna say I think also kind of a asterisk is to say that like whenever we're doing any mastering, it's very contextual. Like it's not gonna be like, oh, take the setting that you have right there and put it on everything.
That's why that's why I'm saying like I'm going to show a lot of the fundamentals today. In fact, I guarantee you that once I get to the end of building this vocal chain, it's going to be overcooked. It's going to be so overproduced because I'll have so much stuff on it that it just doesn't make sense. But that's like what the point of today is just to show like the possibilities. And with everything, like when I teach and I get questions like that, the rule is always like it depends. Yeah. And mastering itself is entirely an it depends thing. Like it is entirely based on like what genre, like what is it that you're working on, and is how you're going to master it. Same thing with mixing. Like I said, I'm going to put a shitload of plugins on here. I wouldn't normally put a shitload of plugins on. So like, yeah.
Yep.
Acting like your mixes aren't shitty is part of becoming a marketable producer. Yeah. All right. So, and the reason, it's really important for you guys to understand that the reason that we do gating first is because anytime you do anything after, if you compress, you take down the peaks. If you like EQ, you can take down the peaks. Like a gate is entirely driven by like what's triggering it. So the less that you give it by compressing it or whatever, the less that you're gonna have to actually work with. And that makes it so it sucks when it comes to like trying to get your compressor to work. So yeah, do your dynamics first. Get your gates in there first. After that, I start. So now we get into like really like how like what's the mindset of how you approach how do you approach like building a vocal chain? And it's two halves. The first half is corrective. The second half is textural. The second half is like all the cool shit. The first half is just doing your corrections. The first correction that I would say is to get in here. Let's do pitch shift. Let's get in here and do some auto tune. I have no idea what key this song is in. So this is my favorite thing to do. How many of you guys use Autotune, and how many of you guys use Melodyne? I'm curious. Let me know. I'm going to show you guys the best thing that you could ever do in Autotune, and that is to set your key by hand. and specifically by note. So like D, this song's gonna be in D. That's what we're making it.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch.
I see what you did there. I'm confused and concerned.
Yeah, auto key for the win for sure. So, or you could just set your song to, like F sharp.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch.
Oh yeah. What's cool about autotune is it's a mono sound correction, so you can put it on like horns. When we were doing Carlo's album, I definitely auto-tuned all those horns.
Yeah.
Because some of them got a little bit brave on their note choices.
Yep.
So yeah, it's
a little loose.
Oh, so we can see it. Because I definitely can't. My phone is little. All right, let's try that.
Now, not to make you multitask, but at the same time, say I was working on a piece where, like, for me, I do a lot more instrumental stuff, right, with my saxophone.
Mm-hmm.
So, for anything, autotune, pitch correction, stuff like that, a lot of times I have actual chord changes where it's much more actively changing chords versus where, like, something more pop or something like that would be more stagnant. Well, not stagnant, but it's more linear.
Unless you actually do a hard key change, it's not going to go anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah. You can. So what you can do in that instance is you can actually, like in Pro Tools, you could actually do this as an audio suite, which means that you work on it and then you put it, like press it or like bake it into the track. Whereas right now it's real time. So, or you could copy this track and then have two different versions of everything, except just two different versions of your autotune set to the different keys. Yeah. So in that instance, you have to think like parallel. Like one track's gonna flow into the next, but in a different key. But you could have all the same settings and everything.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't know why it's not logging in. Don't worry about it.
It's a lot of will it blend.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's like where a lot of people get caught up is they try to automate changes and everything when they can just be making like at this point in Pro Tools, like I could probably dial in like 700 tracks in this session if I wanted to. There's plenty of space for us to work. Yeah. What do we got going on here? Just Viz is here. What's up, Just Viz? Just Viz, I was going to reach out and ask if you wanted to be the demo person getting your song. But you missed it. And I also should have just put it in the Discord, but whatever. Hang out. If you don't know the key of your song, you can always just
watched you steal from young
see where the notes hang out. Write them down. Go to an online key finder. But Amp is right. You also do have auto key, and that helps a lot. This version, so the UAD version doesn't have auto key. You have to actually get auto tune for that. If you want T-Pain, retune fast.
I watched you steal from young and old.
And there it is.
Yep.
If you're JVS the World, and you want to like make your auto-tune that, but if you want to not have us complain, you could just dial it back. You could even like do flex tune and humanize a little bit. Those tend to help relax how fast it tunes. I'm not gonna put a tune in this. I'm not gonna actually try and find the key of this song.
I was gonna say, just kind of from listening to it here, it almost sounds like it's more spoken than sung.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we'd have to actually like listen to the the bass and stuff like that. Yep. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna let it correct to whatever it thinks. So there you go. There's your first set of corrections. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just EQ this. But I'm not going to EQ it with anything special. This is where we get into Amp's stock plugin thing. I'm just going to use the stock Pro Tools. I like the stock Pro Tools, to be honest. The only thing, if you're into Pro Tools, the only thing a really high-level person knows is that these numbers aren't actually true. They're a rough estimate. So when you get into like the harmonics, everything's all fucking wacky. So this is where you would like do your mic corrections. So if your mic sounds like
I watched you steal from
like super in your face, like you sang through a sock or something like that, or better yet, like you guys want to see some yin and yang effect.
I watched you
Same
steal from
sound.
young and old.
It just
I
comes from
did
cutting
not snitch,
instead of
I
boosting.
never told-
But this is where maybe like wherever Brody's in might be, this is where he might be running into something, is he might need a corrective EQ beforehand. Like I feel like Spacejhit, I feel like JVS The World, like if you guys put very nice corrective EQs using like just the stock stuff, because just the stock stuff isn't going to impart any textures. It's just going to be very vanilla, very blah, but that's what you want. Like you want to be very like bleh. John, if you guys want to send something, put it through. I'll just switch over. I'll have Kim check the the submissions, but I need like the stem. So if you send me like a single vocal and then the track, that would be best. Oh, thank you.
Oh.
I can, yeah.
Good.
Send it through the submission. The submission thing. I can just pull it up. I have another monitor here.
We have the power.
We have the power. But I'm gonna make it sound clean, and I'm gonna like overdo it heavily because that's the theme of today, is like doing some crazy shit. Or you should know the Gmail if you've been to the website. I'm gonna continue on, but if I switch over, I'll just switch over. It's cool. Let me know. So some things about like the corrective EQ. It's okay to do mid-range scoop if you want to clean stuff up. Just don't go too heavy-handed on it. Also, too, like for male vocals, boost around like 1, 2, 3K, because you have the first formant, the first like harmonic overtone that like is definition. For females, it's a little bit higher up. It's like 3, 4, 5K, and that'll just immediately help like the clarity. Yeah, Brody's. Yeah, I don't know why. He wanted this. Brody's in wanted this. He was like excited about it. But just be careful too when you're doing corrective stuff. Like, don't do this. Now is not the time for this. How do I make this go away? Brody's in mic is bet. Yeah, see, this is how you fix the Brody's in problem. No, you don't want to do this. Not yet, because once we get into textural is going to do a lot of taking care of this without the actual, like, you want to kind of be careful about doing broad range, like maybe not corrections, but like adjustments, especially like this, because yeah, you're hitting a bunch of the harmonics, but you're also hitting everything else, which is the good and the bad stuff. So, yeah, like just be aware of broad stroke stuff. If you're going to do broad stroke, be gentle with it. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to do like first formant. I'm going to do like a little cut here, and then I might add like a little bit of body back into it. Let's see how this sounds.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch. I never told to turn this poverty to gold, to claim our youth. But
it doesn't need to be super punchy. It just needs to be enough that it like brings out the clarity.
Yep.
Yeah. And then like the mid scoop, like
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch. I never.
Your mud range is like your mud range is like 250 to like 500. Brody's in is here. We were just talking about how you might have a backwards mic. My mic is not backwards.
Not backwards. But we love you for it, though.
we're to the stage where if you want to fix your backwards mic sound, we know that you're going for like a marketable, like the Brody Zen sound. So this is where you would fix it in your vanilla, very straightforward, gonna do mic corrections stage EQ. This is all cleanup stuff. You don't. I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it. If you want to go with like the SoundCloud sound, you could do something like this. You could pull this. Oops. You could pull this down. I've seen that done. Like for me, I like a little bit of warmth right here. This stuff isn't really. It doesn't really do anything for me. Up to like maybe 100. It depends on like obviously what kind of vocals it is. But like if you're doing like that SoundCloud sound, you could also go like a little bit steeper of a cut here.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not.
You'll see that I don't go quite as deep, but this for me like tends to carry a lot of warmth in the vocals, especially for him. The other thing too is like if you're gonna stack a lot, you want to be like doing this is gonna take care of proximity effect. If you guys don't know what proximity effect is, look it up. It's basically a low end boost. It's this from when we shove our mics in our mouth. That's proximity effect. So you're gonna clean up that. But sometimes, like if we were to hit this with like a frequency analyzer, I don't think that this microphone's going that low anyway. So we're just essentially making sure that there's nothing there. And technically that could be corrective too. So I'm going to put this here. Another thing too is like as we start texturing the highs, this is going to start like losing its oomph, which is why I put a little bit in there. So it's just like to preemptively get into it. Yeah, how are we doing? Cool. Everything's running. It looks really good. Yeah. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is like a little bit crazy for you guys. Let's get into some compression. Again, I'm going to choose a vanilla plugin. My vanilla plugin is the Pro Tools stock. Most of the stuff that's out there kind of has the same things. Like stay away right now from like 1176s, LA2As, like any of the name, like Shadow Hills, like stay away from those. We'll get into those when we get into texture. But for right now, like just a very vanilla sounding. Oh, I lost playback on this. Are we offline?
Nope.
Oh, that's so weird. Mine like totally locked up. I'm going to refresh my phone. I wonder what my phone did. My phone is not even loading Twitch. Okay. All right.
You have too many devices logged in.
Yes, yeah, I have like eight things logged in. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set a very like general compression. And I'm actually going to do this in 3 stages. This is my little technique. And I'm sharing it with you guys. It's called staged compression, and it allows a little bit of compression to go a long way. So I'm going to basically take 3 compressors in a row, and I'm going to set them, for me, very general settings are like super fast attack, as fast as it'll go, and then like maybe 150 milliseconds on the release as your starting point. The rest of the settings are going to change as we build them. So I'm going to set my first compressor. So the first wave of sound is going to come in to this compressor, and it's going to get hit by super light compression, like 1.2 to 1. And I'll explain all of the why after I build these. So like 1.2 to 1, I'm going to have a really low threshold. So it's going to be happening all the time. So if I hit this,
I watched you steal from young
you can see
and old.
I'm hitting at -6 decibels of compression, but because it's at 1.2 to 1, it's inaudible. It's like a very well blended, like hidden compression, and it's just generally doing some nice like across the board compression. But it is taking off. If we look right here, you can see that it's like where this line should continue would be 1-to-1. So at 1.2, it's taking off just that little bit. And so what we want to do is we want to use our makeup gain to make up that top corner and like get our sound back. And if I hit play and just A/B this, like you guys, I guarantee you, you will not be able to hear the difference between a compressed version and uncompressed version. That's how smooth, like and clean this sounds.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not.
But the difference is 6 decibels in compression. So I'm taking it out, I'm putting it back in, but I'm bringing the peaks and the valleys like closer to each other. Oh, hi. Today, you guys are getting so much like Kim time. Too much even. To soak it in for like the whole year, because oh sure, dude, no problem. Great question. Like just go through what these settings are for the compressor. Let's start with like the important things. Basically, threshold. Anytime we talk about dynamics, we talk about threshold. Threshold is essentially like the trigger. When does this effect start working? If we go back to gate, we also have threshold here. So as the sound passes up this way, like if the sound, because this is a gate, if the sound lives in here, it's off. It doesn't trigger the threshold. If it goes, oh, what's up? Like good. This is my classroom. Welcome. If you want at the end, I'll give you guys another tour. So gates work backwards. Gates mean that when the sound is hanging out here,
I watched you.
see how it's like over here, but you're hearing it? If I raise this threshold up so that way it lives to the left,
I watched you steal.
well, it gets very like clunky. I have a fast release. Let's do that.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not steal.
So I made it so it like is a full roll off. Let me set that back, and then I'm going to set this back here. So on a gate, if it lives over here, it's the threshold's not being met, so the effect hasn't taken place yet. When it hits the threshold, the gate turns on. If I go back to a compressor, same thing. No compression on this side. When the threshold gets met and like the little dot moves above it, then the compressor starts, and it starts reacting. When it starts, it reacts at the ratio. So now you have the ratio down here. So ratio is decibels in to decibels out, meaning that if I was to go like, say, a very common, like, so let's do like 4-to-1. So like 1176 runs 4-to-1, meaning that for every 4 decibels past the threshold, you're only going to get 1 decibel out. This is why like you get very like chopped off peaks. If I was to commit this, all the peaks would be like very flat, because for every 4 decibels past the threshold, it's only allowing 1 decibel out. So the fact that I'm doing like a very light compression means it's not really going to be audible. For like you, Spacejhit. Oh, hi. Do I get my own little talking?
A little bit.
For you, Spacejhit, like you go with heavy compressions because it's very like pumpy, and so that tends to be, she's just floating through the cameras. That tends to be like your like very aggressive sound. So, but we'll actually get into that in a little bit. Let's see here. So we did that. Again, like I said, makeup gain is the last thing. Makeup gain is the last stage. So for all of those decibels you've cut down in your compressor, now in theory, everyone's like, oh, you put compression on it to make it quiet. No, you put compression on it to take your peaks down. So when you take your makeup gain, you can make up more gain because you don't have peaks hitting the top as fast. And so that's why compressors, technically they do make things louder, but that's only after they've done all their work. So
question for you,
yeah.
sir. So for me, and a lot of the stuff that I do, I don't use a compressor for my instruments at least, but I use a limiter.
Yeah. So a limiter, this is a limiter. It's just a heavy compressor. So all it's doing is making it so it's like the louder you get, the more resistance it reaches after the compressor turns on. And that's if you look at the name of the plugin, it's called compressor limiter because they are essentially the same.
Gotcha.
And now you get into like the old guy terminology, which is like 4 to 1 to some old guys is limiting. Like 10 to 1 is limiting. Like it depends on what like era we're talking about that they talk about like, oh yeah, 20 to 1 is limiting. And it's like, like to us 100 to 1 is limiting.
And for me, I guess like I use the limiter more for the sake of I'll put it not in the actual like saxophone track itself, but I'll put it on my stereo just like as it's going out.
Yeah.
To where that way I could just set it for that 0
You're protecting
or
those
negative
peaks.
0.1.
Yep.
To where that way the entire track doesn't go beyond that.
I would just do a limiter for that. If you're doing an output, limiter will be like a safety thing for you. And that goes for everybody else. Like I know some of you guys use compressors on your output. You should be using heavy compressors or limiters. Attack is going to be how fast the compressor waits before it starts. So if you guys are doing like snares, kicks, things with transients, you actually want to set your attack kind of slow, like maybe anywhere between 10 and 30 milliseconds to allow the transient to pass through before the compressor reacts. And that's going to get you like a super tight snare feel because it's going to be transient and then immediately clamp down. And then release is how long it takes before the compressor resets to 0. So if you're doing like a long release, like you can actually have problems where you have a long release and like you constantly are bringing down your level because the release hasn't gone up. It's just constantly being hit back down. So pay attention to that stuff. Like if you're doing really like dancey stuff, you're going to want like a pretty fast release. Did that answer your questions? Hopefully. For me, I'm going to set a fast attack. I'm going to set a slow release. So it's a very broad general. We're doing vocals, so we want it to just like hit and then just kind of gently come back. Also, too, with the faster you release, the more pumping you're going to get. So the more noticeable compression you're going to get. Again, that's kind of a Spacejhit thing. Like pay attention to your release because you can make it very pumpy. You're still blanking but paying attention. Yeah, this is the dark art. But for me, like all I'm doing for this is very light ratio, very long threshold. So we're just hitting it.
I watched you steal from young and
it's not noticeable because it doesn't have a fast release. Oh, you did? Cool. And then the gain is making it up. So let me do another one of these, and then I'll explain what I'm doing. So now I've got 3 stages of compression. On my second stage, I'm going to set a little bit more aggressive ratio, and then I'm going to back off the threshold by like half as much, so minus 20. And then on my third stage, I'm going to go almost like 2 to 1 with a threshold of minus 10. And so what I have here is stage compression, meaning that I've got a lot of sound going through this first one. The threshold's way down here. If I hit play and we zoom in, we'll see
I watched you steal from young and old.
He's hanging out way up here, so all of this distance is compressed. If we go to the second one, we move our threshold back a little bit. So
I watched you steal from young and old.
There's like a little bit of compression on this one because it's past the threshold. And then on this last one,
I watched you steal from
you can see that even some words don't even get compression. So what we're allowing is just instead of doing one compressor really hard, we're allowing 3 softer compressors to build up as the volume builds up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so this is a really good point to make in that, like, if you guys, like, if you think about, like, if I took 2 EQs and put, like, I don't know, plus 4 decibels at, like, 1K and then copied that, the output would be plus 8 decibels at 1K. When you're talking about compressors, it's not additive, it's multiplicative. So if you can manage to get the sound past this 2 times, you're actually going 1.2 times 1.5 times 2, which is a large amount of compression. We're up in like the 4s and 5s. But it doesn't. It's not on all the time. It's very like this is a loud word, this is a soft word that doesn't get as much compression, and so we're being variable with how our compressors work, and so it allows for a more natural sound. But again, remember that this is the corrective stage for this. We want it to be natural. We don't want it to be pumping. We don't want it to be aggressive. Yet we'll get to that in a second.
So question,
Yeah.
because I think someone may be thinking of this, or at least I'm thinking of this, because let's just call this a 3-stage compression.
Yeah.
So is there such thing as a 5, 7,
As many as you want.
X stage?
Yeah, as many as you want. So long as each one is a little bit higher ratio than the previous and then a little bit in between threshold. So you could have it so it triggers like a sound that's like 2, 3, 5, depending on the loudness. And you like when it comes to corrective stuff, you want to do this because if you put one compressor on and you hit that loud thing, that compressor really has to work. And so you're sharing the load over multiple compressors, which means that like the pumping and the artifacts aren't going to be there. It's a very clean sound essentially. And again, we're in the corrective compression stage, so we want it to be a compression that's not noticeable at all. So yeah. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Spacejhit, if there's anything that you want me to like really deep dive into, let me know. All right. So one of the side effects of compression is hard S's. And so it's about that time. So we're going to put, and it's funny because if we go into dynamics, that's where you're going to find our de-esser. Because a de-esser is a sidechain compressor. And if you guys want compress, then de-ess. Yep. And that's why I say that. And to be honest, it's not a bad thing to like preemptively de-ess. If you already have hard S's coming into it, you can de-ess and then compress. Yes, sir. So really here, like I like the Pro Tools version because it's just a sidechain compressor, and on the Pro Tools version, you can actually listen to the sidechain. So if we go here, we can listen. We can listen for the hard S's. We can dial this in to the hard S's. This works for horns too, by the way. Like horns can sometimes hit certain notes that make it very shrill, and so you can like and find that like.
You know, there's actually I forget what it is on my alto at least, but for some reason there's a particular note. If I ever play it, it resonates something in the microphone and it starts buzzing it. So I messed with this once, and I think I tamed it a little bit, but I don't know if that's a de-esser issue.
It could be.
Issue,
yeah.
But,
it could be a mixture of like EQing and then de-essing. You can do a lot with de-essers. Hello. It's good to see you. Q is on his flight, so he pops in every now and then. But yeah, you can de-ess. You can de-ess horns. You can de-ess. Like if you guys do drums and you get really like harsh cymbals, you can de-ess cymbals. Anything that's like a single like upper range thing, it's just compression. It's just very, very fast tuned compression. So if you just treat it like that, you can do a lot with it. But yeah, so yeah, compress, de-ess. But you could de-ess first if you wanted to. There's no real rules on de-essing. I've seen some people, like some vocal chains, where the de-esser comes before all the compressors, and it's not that big of a deal. So we have our gate that cleans up stray sounds, breaths, all that stuff. We have our auto-tune, which gets our notes right. We do our EQ. Corrective EQ to get the mic to sound nice, to like warm it up or cool it off or like put some emphasis on it. If also too like auto-tune creates artifacts, we could use this stage to correct out the artifacts. Then for me, you could just do one compressor if you want to, by the way. Like there's no rules. I just like making a soft 3-stage compressor. Followed by a de-esser. And then now we can get into corrective stuff. So let me make sure I turned this. Yes, I'm still on listen. There we go.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch. I never told to turn this poverty to gold to claim our youth. But
And those stage compressors tend to give like a more in-your-face sound right off the bat. So if you want those like kind of upfront vocals, you can do it very softly. And if it tends to be, there's another like sub rule. If it tends to be a little bit too in your face, I like taking out the middle compressor. That's just a personal thing of mine. There he is. How's your flight so far? Does the little thing on JetBlue say what city you're over? Or are you over the ocean? Or is it too loud?
I think he's probably over Mecca somewhere. But
Yeah, are you over Mecca? What does compressing do? Makes the audio more smooth and level. Yeah, that's exactly what it does. Like it takes the peaks and kind of brings them down. It takes the valleys, like these spaces down here, and kind of brings them up. So you're gonna have a more consistent delivery with a good compressor. That's exactly what it does. And then you can get into like doing things like sidechaining or like setting your attack and release to make more pumpy stuff. But at its core, you're correct. It just smooths it out. And like on deliveries where you're like really all about it, it'll make it feel less jumpy. Yeah. Cool. My phone still hasn't uploaded. Oh well, I'm not gonna fuck with it. So now, all right. So we've done all that stuff. Dude, keep asking questions. I love it. Yeah, and like you'll start to see that. Like I like using this because it has all of the settings. Like this is pretty much all of the settings. This has like a built-in EQ sidechain. So if we didn't want to compress the whole frequency band, we could dial in just like the mid-range or just the highs or the lows. So that way you specifically get that band to compress a little bit more. And then welcome to the world of multiband compressing. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say that reminds me of I forget where I stumbled on it, but like the multipressor for Logic Pro.
Yeah. It's all kind of the same. We get into a whole other field of physics when we add multibands because now we have crossovers, and crossovers have like. Don't put a multiband here. That's all I have to say. It's like put a multiband at the end of all your vocals because it does shit with the phase that will fuck everything up. And I can prove it, but I'm not going to. So, all right, we did our corrective stuff. Now let's do our textural stuff. If you want to do like a stock plugin thing, you could find. I'm sure all of them have. Where's the Pultec? There's like some. The Pultec. For me, I have Waves. I like the Puig Tech, but it's all the same. Like all of these are the same. The thing about a Pultec, and the reason why I like Pultecs is because the only way you don't get a Pultec sound is to not include the Pultec. Just the act, like I could take this out, these settings out, and it still is going to have a Pultec sound because me having this plugin on makes the Pultec sound. In real life, a Pultec, if you just turn this knob off, you're still going to get a Pultec sound. You're just not going to have the settings engaged. That's all this is. So if I'm doing this, like if I do like some high boosting, maybe I'll like boost the bandwidth and I'll make it like 5K.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch. I never told to turn this poverty to.
See how he still has like upper harmonics even when I take the settings out? Yep. Yeah. Over Virginia. You're almost not quite home. But for me, like I like doing like, so this is why we didn't in the corrective, we didn't want to add like some great big shelving boost because I'm going to do that on this. I'm basically going to find that range, maybe like 8K, maybe like 10K, and I'm just going to boost. I like 4. I like 4 as the starting point with like a really broad band. Rocking me to bed.
Yep.
You're going to fall asleep. You're going to fall asleep. Or you're going to just do that thing where you're like, I'm going to die. Yeah, so now you're doing your high-end boost. This thing is going to give you a ton of harmonics. You could use the stock plugin. Going to eat all the snacks. Do it. do it.
What's the deal with airplane food,
What's
man?
what's the deal with airplane food?
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch. I never told to turn this.
And it's very subtle, but it's gonna give a ton of harmonics, like in the overtones. I actually sometimes I'll throw this on like a master if I feel like it doesn't have enough like high end boost, and I don't want to just take an EQ and like drive that high end. I will pull tech the high end up. Harmonics is the name of the game, and now you talk about like what do you do in mastering? It's all harmonic decisions. That's what this Millennia is. So the Millennia is great because it's got 2 different stage outputs that you can choose from. You can choose a tube for warmth, or you can choose a JFET for like some crunch. And that's kind of like what you're doing with a Pultec also. What's up, Spacejhit? You guys. Pause.
I guess while we're waiting for the questions, this almost seems similar to me from the Logic standpoint, because that's my home base.
Mm-hmm.
This seems more like the Exciter plugin.
So there is an exciter. It does kind of the same thing, but this is modeled after how like electronics work, and that is modeled after like how an actual like upper harmonic exciter works. But in essence, they're brothers.
Okay.
One is designed specifically, and this is designed more for an EQ.
One's the good brother. One's the one you don't really like to talk about.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, I get graphic EQs are great. This is a textural EQ. Like you go to Pultecs because of the overtones that they generate. So that's why it's later in the chain. If you wanted to use like a graphic EQ, that would be like up in here, up in the beginning, kind of a corrective thing. But then this is going to generate your harmonics. And then I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to go ahead. I would put maybe like BF76 is the stock 1176 plugin for Pro Tools. I have UAD. I have all the UAD. So I'm going to maybe do Shadow Hills because I got one. Sure, why not? If you don't like knobs, you won't like the Shadow Hills. You want to see the scariest plugin in your life? You want to see this get like the scariest plugin? Where is this one? The V2. Here's a scary plugin with knobs. Oh no, come on, the full one. I want the full one. The full boat. Where are you? Mono stereo. Oh, it's only. Alright, it's not gonna do it. The full version of this is like the size of this whole screen. Yeah, you just gotta know. You just gotta know what all the knobs do. I'm gonna go to the Shadow Hills and put that on. You can do so much stuff here. You can do like SSLE, SSLG. You can do Teletronics LA2A. If you've got any of this stuff, Voxbox, Verimu, Fairchild. I know a lot of I know Logic has a lot of like these like in essence. It's not the actual version, but it's like, oh, we're gonna make a version kind of like this. Yeah. So this is where you would get into that kind of stuff. Taken Studio. Ooh, Amp asks a question. All right, hold on. Let me pull up a Shadow Hills. All right. Amp asks a really good question. John is in a storm now, so I'm going to say all of life's little secrets now. Nothing but the vibes.
Just scream out, "Bia!"
Fuck it, we're doing it. Okay, so Amp asks, what is an opto compressor? I'm going to go ahead and back that question up to just like, what are the different forms of compressors? The reason I did this is because it's a digital compressor. It doesn't model itself after anything. It just models itself after like, how do compressors work? Which is a very like, this goes to that, this goes to that. What's up, Hogan? You hanging out for some lessons? So once we get into actual textural stuff, now we get into like the different how are EQs, how are outboard EQs, how are outboard compressors made, and so now you get into like why people make certain decisions about stuff. So there's like different root processes to make compression. There's optical, There's tube, which is Veramu. There's VCA. There's PWM. I'm forgetting something. What am I forgetting?
I can't tell you.
It's fine. I think you could do diode too. What am I forgetting? Gang's all here. Oh, hey. Just doing some streaming.
Don't mind us.
Yeah, no. Brody's taking notes. He's taking notes for the class, so just, hit him up for that Google Doc. Discrete, that's the other kind. FET compression. So all of these different types of things make all these different types of processes make different sounds on their output. And so, like, I went to a Pultec because a Pultec has transistor sounds. It has tube sounds. Like, it's tube-based. A Shadow Hills actually is a 2-stage compressor, which is why I love the plugin. And I love the real thing. We have optical, and then we get into Amp's question. What is optical? So optical is a really cool process because it literally uses light to make compression on the sound. It literally uses a thing called a photoresistor, which is a resistor that the more light shines on it, the more it generates resistance and quiets the sound going through it. And then on a circuit right next to it, it has a light bulb, so it turns the audio into light. And then parallel to that circuit, the light is next to a photoresistor, so the sound going through it literally gets dimmed as the signal gets louder. It's fucking crazy. Okay, I'll mess with it. So that generates a specific set of overtones, optical. And so what a Shadow Hills is at its essence is 2 compressors that are back to back, an optical compressor and a discrete or a FET compressor. FET is also the same type of compression that you'll get from an 1176. If you look at these knobs, it's the same knobs on an 1176. If you look at these knobs, it's the same knobs on an LA2A. If you wanted to build a Shadow Hills and plugins, you could literally get a fake LA2A and then go right after that with a fake 1176, and you would more or less have how a Shadow Hills works. Save yourself, a lot of money, just so much money. But also too, LA2As generate like a nice warm harmonic, and then discretes generate like a colder, more like forward and like very actiony kind of harmonic. So I'm gonna mess with these real quick, and let's see if we can dial in some I'm gonna kind of over compress so you can kind of hear how things sound with these compressors.
I watched you steal from young
I'm gonna
and
turn
old.
this off.
I did not snitch. I never told to turn this poverty to gold to claim our youth. But
You hear how as the optical's hitting, it's like gets a little bit warmer. It gets a little bit more mid-rangey. That's why you use an optical compressor. Also, opticals are a little bit smoother in their forward attack, and it's just a nice sound.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch. I never told to turn this.
So now I'm going to bring in the discrete and then give it so now it's got it's almost a little bit muddy now, just a little bit. And so now we want to clean it up. I already have the CLA2A. I'm going to grab the 76. Yeah. Yo, what's up, Westside Ultra? Yeah, so if you wanted to chain those two together, you'd pretty much be set. It's a very harmonically rich sound.
So it's almost like, and I could be thinking about this the wrong way. It's almost like the optical that up top you were messing with before the discrete is almost like a coarse than fine adjustment.
It's more of you could treat it that way, yeah, but more like second harmonic, third harmonic, and now you're changing what levels of harmonics. If I wanted to add more discrete and less optical, I would have a little bit colder but a little bit punchier sound, or I could flip it and do more on the optical side and less on the discrete, and get a warmer. It's not quite a tube sound, but it kind of is in the ballpark of that.
Okay.
So I'll push this discrete.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch. I
Let me
never
set
told
these.
to turn
See how
this
it's very
poverty
it's
to.
very poppy on the front now.
Yep.
And so that's something we have to. Dalawada knows. Dalawada understands how the knobs work.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch. I never told to turn this pot.
And then so if you guys are confused about like compressors in their entirety, start working with like 1176s and LA2As, because even though they have knobs on them, they only have like an LA2A only has 2 knobs on it. So you can kind of figure out, like, you just push it and get the sound, or you don't. And that's kind of what's great about these things. And then you can get into the textures by how hard you push them. So
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch. I never told to turn this poverty to gold, to claim our youth, but feel so old. I'm standing too close to the rail. I'm trembling terribly.
So if we like overdo it, could you okay. Amp's asking the really tough questions tonight. I appreciate you. Keep it up. Nickel. All right. So nickel, iron, and steel. The thing about kind of the way I said the Pultec, like the way that you not have a Pultec sound is to just not include a Pultec. The way that you not include Shadow Hills is to the way that you don't get Shadow Hills is to just not include Shadow Hills. You're always, even if your compressors are doing nothing, you're always going to have a Shadow Hills sound, because the output stage runs through one of 3 different type of transformers. And this, like, if you guys want to train your ears, hearing the difference between these, I would say that the only hardest thing, harder than hearing these, is hearing dither. And that's like sitting there for hours, like trying to, like, driving yourself crazy, trying to figure out if what you're hearing is actually what you're hearing. That's how high level listening we're talking about. More or less, in a very fast way to describe this, these are transformers, or output transformers. Transformers are just pieces of wire in a winding, and they're around a certain type of metal. And as that metal like gets full of the magnetic field from the audio, it starts to saturate, and that saturation imparts a tonality, and the type of metal that you used imparts a different tonality. So if you want like the quick and dirty about nickel, diamond, steel, this kind of feels a little bit more like airy and high end. This feels like a very like nice meaty mid range, and this kind of puts a little bit of emphasis on the lows. That's very rough and dirty, because like this, first off, it's fucking hard to hear these settings. And secondly, harmonics don't work in a way that I'm just like, oh, that's a low setting. Oh, that's a mid. Oh, that's a high. They could be random almost, like how your ears are attuned to hearing them, and what gets affected by them. So, like if you just want some like nice high end, nickel. There you go. And then good luck spending the next 3 months of your life listening to like how these things sound. And then when you get done with that, just try and listen to how dither works. I'm not even gonna start on dither.
That's the next stream.
That's the next stream that I'm just in here by myself going, can you hear it? And I'll just sit for like 2 hours and just hit bypass on and off and on and off, and we'll just listen to dither for one whole stream. I'm tired of this, Grandpa. All right, so that to me. So again, in recap, this is your serial chain. I'm gonna get into the parallel chain here shortly, but this is your, like, you have your corrective stage, you have your gates to like take away the noises that you might not want. Like maybe if you guys are like in your home studio and you got your speakers in the room next door. They might be bleeding into your microphone. Use that gate. Clean up the sounds when you're not singing. Make it easy on yourself. Then you have your auto tune. Get your notes right. In this instance, I didn't have the key, so I just went with whatever. And then I set a very like bland setting because I don't want the T-Pain sound, but this is where you get your stuff. Your first set of corrections is your EQ. This is to correct your mic, really. This is to get your mic to sound. If Gizmo is still here, like this is where I want you to work, because I often complain about like how you kind of have a nasally sound. Do it on this corrective stage. Then you've got your vanilla compressor. This could be 1. For me, it's 3. And then that's followed by your de-esser. Q likes having a de-esser here, 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 and here. Just to let you know. And then we get into textural stuff, and that's where you get like Fairchilds and Pultex and a lot of like the UAD. If I go to EQ here, like API has the API sound. Manly, Helios. A lot of these EQs have sounds and textures that come with them. The UAD, like the V76, the Tube Tex. So now you're choosing how to like texturally affect EQs, and then you follow it with a textural compressor. That is your serial chain. So now we go into the parallel stuff. I'm gonna open up my sends here. This is gonna get fucking crazy. I'm just letting you know now, because I'm gonna do this like way over the top. But basically, this is where, if you wanted to, this plane has hydraulics.
I mean, technically, he's not wrong.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
How'd you find out? Did you ask the pilot? Did they let you sit up in the cockpit? Do you have the little wings on your shirt now? So this next thing, when it comes to like building parallel, you could share a lot of these soul plane. You could share a lot of these effects with other sounds in your chain. So if I'm telling you to do like a reverb, your reverb could be between your background vocals or your main vocal, or like if you're doing like drums and snare, you could have one reverb that's processing like 3 or 4 channels that are sent to it. So that's one good thing about this. Very rarely, I can only think of one off the top of my head, would I want to have a parallel that's specific to this channel, and I will get to that. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to start with that. In Pro Tools, we can do new track. I'm going to do an upward compression. So we're going to start. We're going to start with the one parallel channel that lives with this specific channel. Everything else after this can be used by everything in the session. And also, too, it depends on what kind of music. If you're doing indie rock, you can do an upward compression that the whole session feeds into. It kind of makes like a very like glued together sound, and that's what upward compressors tend to use for. Amp, this is like what the conversation you and I had about like a glue compressor. This is, if you're doing this for your whole session, that's what this is. I call it upward. Some people call it parallel. If you work for Bob Katz, he will correct you every single time and tell you to call it New York style. So for me, this is where I like using like an optical. So not an optical, an 11. I like a FET. I like a nice 1176. I'm going to set this to pre-fader, and I'm going to do this. And so what I'm going to do, this is how you, let me put the settings on screen. This is how you upward compress, is you squish the shit out of what you're working on.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch. I never told you.
So for me, minus 15 on my gain reduction meter. I'm smashing the shit out of this. The only other thing that you have to be careful of when you're doing parallels is your release. Set your release super fast. On a 1176, super fast is 7. And then I like to pull it back just a hair. So this setting right here, especially just this plugin, I use this on so much shit. And like all of this whole mindset of doing corrective and then doing textural, That's how you mix. That's mixing. So even if you see like guys like online that are like, oh, I use these 3 for my vocal chain. If you look at it, you'll see corrective and then textural. Like however you break it down, it's corrective and then textural. I'll show you in one sec. Let me check this real quick. Oh, interesting. Spacejhit with the good questions. So I've got this version of the song now that's squished to shit, and it has a very fast release on it. I moved my attack because I wanted to, but you don't have to.
I watched you steal from young and old.
And so now you've got this very like brick walled, like squished in. Now what you do in the process of making it parallel, you're going to make it so you play both of these at the same time. I'm going to turn this track back on, and then I'm going to take the output of my upward compressor and I'm going to turn it to nothing. I'm going to turn it completely off. And what I'm going to do is hit play, and then I'm going to just start bringing up this volume until I start to hear like a little bit of bigness, a little bit of like clarity. Like in general, you're going to start to feel the vocals get kind of like a bubble around them. Like they suddenly like things work properly. The frequencies line up, like all good shit starts happening. I'm going to overdo it for this so you guys can hear it.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch, I never told to turn this poverty to gold, to claim our youth, but feel so old. I'm standing too close to the...
So it brings like, I've already got the compressors like hitting pretty hard on the main vocal, and then suddenly it brings like another level of pushing the vocals out front. And so this is really like, even if like over the stream you're like, I don't hear what it's doing, try doing this. So you're gonna find, especially if you have tracks, for you guys that like send tracks and we're like, hey, those vocals need to pop a little bit more, this right here is gonna make your vocals pop. Anything that you do this to, if you're doing it for like horns and stuff, if you have something that's gonna be getting a solo, upward compress it, and then find that sweet spot where it like you can't hear the upward compression. That's the next big thing. But it's gonna like sit in the mix, and like nothing, like no other horns are gonna like cut into its frequency spectrum. Like it's not gonna have that fighting that sometimes happens.
So would you even say, like, say it's me, rhythm section, and like backup horns, right?
Yeah.
Would you do this particular process to just my instrument and leave the others out?
You could. You could also, if you wanted to, send all of the other backup horns into one compressor, and it'll kind of like that mush together, like 3 horns sitting together, playing together.
Mm-hmm.
It'll make it feel like that. It'll give it kind of a togetherness. Yeah. Over your headphones if you have them. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm in the mastering room. I can hear it. For you guys, like if you're like I don't understand what's happening, do it yourself, and then push this all the way up, and you'll start to hear like suddenly all of like the low frequencies, the body frequencies, they start to pop out. So yeah, and if you guys like, I'm gonna just briefly say this because this is like fucking just dynamite fire. Like you're gonna hurt somebody if you do this wrong. There's one more stage to this that's very, very modern. It's like a very, very modern upward compression. The fact that you're taking this down by -15 on the gain reduction means that you could essentially put an EQ in front of this and tune this compression, but you have to do really wild EQ curves. So for example,
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch, I never told to turn this poverty to gold, to claim our youth, but feel so old.
Now I completely overdid it, but I just wanted you to hear, like, as I'm sweeping through, suddenly it's like it gets very like emphasized. What's happening is exactly that. You're emphasizing the sound, but you're not actually putting this wild EQ into it. because this wild EQ is followed by a really heavy compressor. So all the wild changes that you're doing are just getting pushed back down. This is the essence of EQ before compress. This is why you have to kind of be careful, because if you do really specific things on your EQ and then you compress it, you might be compressing those EQ changes back out of it. So that's the argument for EQ versus compress. I still like it that way, though. Whatever. But what you're doing is essentially, if you're doing that for like a song, you can add emphasis to like the vocals. This is too much. This is like, he's very like, pss, pss, like in the highs. So this is already too much. But if you have like a very body tone, try that. Yeah. I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to turn this down. And for me, these two live together. So whatever I build next, like, that's fine. It can be with the whole session. It can be something that like a reverb that everybody sends to. But for the upward compression, these two will always ever live together because I need the output. So, for example, let me build the next one. Oh, hello. There we go, new track. So here, let's get into our parallels. Reverb. Reverb short. And it's going to be exactly that. Let's send this to there. Let's do that. And then I'm going to turn this off, turn that on. So now what we've got is our reverb. I'm going to do like fucking, I don't even care. I'm going to do a shitty, like stock reverb, room, small. I'm going to keep it at 100%. This is really important when you're building effects sends. Keep that channel at 100%. Control how much reverb you're doing by the actual send. This thing right here is how much you're sending to this reverb. So if you don't want a lot of reverb, don't send a lot of reverb. Here's this.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch, I never.
You see what I'm saying? So now you can like build these reverb spaces, and then the important thing, and this is what we keep telling you guys to not put reverbs directly on the track, is that regardless of how much is going on here, I've got the dry signal passing also. So like you're always ever going to have a dry, clean signal. Yeah, all right. Short reverb, very basic. Let me do another one. New track. We'll do our reverb long. Same thing. Pre-fader. So again, I can control this from here. I'm going to make this one. What do I want to do? I'll make this one like an EMT 250. I fucking love this plugin. Got the new track option. I mean, all I'm doing in Pro Tools, and I should have pointed this out, all I'm doing is these are just auxiliaries. So if you have the ability to send out to buses or just like tracks that you can put effects on, I know in Logic has the buses. Yep. Yeah. So you can just have like tracks that do processing, but they don't handle audio. And so that's essentially what we're working with. Oh, okay.
FL Studio has that option.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I found my FL. I found my Fruity Loops 2. You guys, if we want to get into that. Here's what an EMT 250 sounds like.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch. I never told to turn this poverty to gold.
I'm gonna play the whole song so you can see how this sits.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch. I never told to turn this poverty to gold. To claim our youth, but feel so old. I'm standing too close
Good question. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. in this quick and dirty, I'm not going to, but it's a really good thing to monitor the EQ on your verbs and clean up your verbs, because you can get like a mid-range buildup and it can get kind of nasty. I also choose plugins that kind of like don't have mid-range buildup, if that's a good thing. Yeah. I'm hoping that this is introducing you to stuff. I don't expect you to retain all of it. There's a lot going on. You put the audio in the track and then put the effect on it, and then it goes to the master. So instead of putting the effect on the audio track, send the build like an auxiliary track or like an effects track. Yeah. YouTube how to create an aux send, and then on that aux put the effects on it. And that's like what's happening here. This is the audio track in Pro Tools. Let me turn this off. So this is the audio track in Pro Tools. These here are the sends, and they're sending into these tracks that literally have nothing on them except for just the effects. And all I'm doing is managing the effects and just like how they are. And because of that, I can leave these at 100%. And how much of the send I send into the effect is controlled from the track itself. Oh, hey. She's snacky. Sitting on my keys. Let me continue on because there's a couple other things to show you. How you guys doing? You have any questions so far?
I don't know about the rest of y'all, but this has been friggin' enlightening.
This is I'm going to keep going, but like this is the essence of good mixing. Like using your audio tracks in a real session. Do you send your effects out your left or right, out your left and rights, or your master chain? Oh, I see what you're saying. It depends. It really depends on what I want to do. I can go like 8 steps further with it, into like how to subdivide the outputs of the effects. I don't want to. You could end here and be perfectly fine. So typically, like in a quick and dirty kind of setup, I'll just send right out to my master chain and let everything get handled from there. If I'm going super technical, I would actually like subdivide my my effects not into left right but into mono stereo. That's the stereo widener we were talking about. Yeah. So it can get really fucking crazy after this if you want it to, but past this point, like these, like just sending the effects to the master is fine. Do you use the clip to zero mixing technique at all? What's the, maybe I know it as something else. Can you describe it to me real quick? Clip to zero. Is that like normalizing? Yeah, just let me know. Brody's in. Do you want me to, some other day we'll talk about like quick and dirty mastering too, when you can ask a lot of questions. And if Q leaves town, we'll need to buy him a plane ticket somewhere.
It's like, we're going to send you to Wyoming.
Wyoming. What's in Wyoming? You'll know when you get there.
Yep. Some big old moose you don't want to fight.
I heard the moose heard you talking about them, and they have something to say about it.
Yep.
So we're going to send you out there, and then we're going to have a mastering session.
So you use a soft clipper to bring stems up in the volume to make a track sound louder.
Use a soft clipper to bring this in the volume to make the track sound louder. Okay, so this is interesting. So it's gain staging. We started off, I think you weren't here. What I prefer doing is I prefer to just use, in Pro Tools, we have clip gain. And I prefer to just bring the clip gain up to like a good solid level so that my first stage of plugins can kind of like attack it. Now, what you're talking about is actually used by, what's the dude name? Chris Lord-Ouch. Like, he really likes opening his plug-in chains with like a soft clipping limiter. So it's like what kind of sound are you going for? If you're going for super aggressive, you can do that. He's notorious for like super aggressive sounds. For a more pulled back, and I like getting an aggressive sound, but I like doing it later on in my chain, just because it gives me more to work with. So, I mean, in mixing, it all depends. It all depends on how you want to approach it. If this was like jazz, absolutely not. If this was like hardcore, absolutely. Like if we were just doing like some heavy fucking rock, absolutely, I would soft clip it from the beginning. This is kind of like dancey stuff, and so I'm gonna let my effects bring out the harmonics basically, and work their magic from there. Yeah. Let me know. Let me know if you have any other questions. I'm gonna basically just kind of get to a point where I can build out a couple more things and quickly talk to you guys about like I think there's only like maybe 4 or 5 more parallel things that you can do. So let me show you those real quick. Let me do a new track. So we did our short reverb, we did our long reverb. I'm gonna do a delay. Again, this is gonna get like really over the top really fast. Delays are interesting because there's 3 things that you can do with a delay. I'm just going to use a basic like mod delay. This is your stock Pro Tools delay. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that. So there's 3 ways that you can use delay, like kind of like categorically. You got you have your basic like noted like note. Do I have a note value for this? Yeah, so this song is 123 BPM. So if I just click on this, it's in sync. So I could just click on this, and it will set my delays to be like...
I watched you steal.
Oh, let me make sure I turned it up. And preset, let's do that.
I watched you steal from...
Now it's overboard, but everything's on beat.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's a very pop thing. We could like hide those in the back. We could put this down and hide it.
I watched you steal from young and old.
And it kind of gives like the arena feel to it.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's that, and you can do that, and you can time them and plan them out. There is slap delay, which is like an older style. Like keep it under 100. I'm gonna set these straight to 100, and it's gonna cause kind of a phasing, but a really cool kind of sound. Can you please be even? Please.
No.
So here's this.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch.
So it's like pop up, pop up, pop up, pop up every single time. And that's kind of like that was like pioneered in the 70s, and so you'll find some like slap delay things. So it's a cool sound. Like it's a little bit to get used to in modern sounds, but I see it coming back every now and then. And then the other thing that you can do, and this is going to get crazy because now, like with reverbs, what we're trying to do is we're trying to like widen the sound. Everything's in mono, like everything's dead down the center. So what we're trying to do is like move it out of the center a little bit. And we do that with our short reverb and our long reverb. We can do that with delay through the Haas effect. And a Haas effect is basically if you add some very fast delays to the outside, your ear is going to get drawn to the closest of the two, but because there's a delay, you get a sense of space. So even though it's one signal down the middle, you're psychoacoustically going to give your ears the perception that like you're in a room essentially. So I'm going to turn this send up.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch.
And so you can kind of get the sense, but because if you look here, the left side is 4 milliseconds and the right side is 16. Our ear hears 4 milliseconds first, so the natural inclination is for this to lean left just a little bit. Yep. And you kind of have to be careful. I really like using that technique when I want to get something out of the center, even though it's stuck in the center. So if there's like a guitar solo, I might Haas effect it to the left just a little bit. Technically, it's still in the middle. You're just hearing it first from the left side.
It's almost like, and again, I could be looking at this the wrong way.
Hmm.
It's almost like you're kind of designing in a not well. I mean, you're doing it stereo, obviously, but it's almost like you're doing like spatial.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, and spatial's huge, especially in like pop and stuff like that. Like people don't realize like how much like taking a signal and moving it from the center to the outsides like impacts. So it's a really, I won't say it's cheap, but kind of is cheap. Like to just have a signal that's like do 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 do. But that's Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift does this shit all the time. So like it's happening whether you know it or not.
It kind of reminds me of Dark Side of the Moon a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna set this to just bounce you on the beat.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not.
Shit's gonna get over the top so fast. Anyway, okay. So we did our spatial things. Another thing, if you guys want, here's a cool old school trick. Let me do this. This is pitch. If you want to kind of get the sound out of the center, here's another one. Pre-fade that. This one's kind of silly. Let's go to pitch shift and to the basic. I think that's the basic. And all I'm going to do is take the left side and tune it down 10 cents and the right side and tune it up. It doesn't have to be 10. Let me unlink them and tune it up 10 cents. And then you're going to get like, so now shit is out of tune. So you're going to get beating, which is out of tune.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not.
But if we turn it down, it just gives a sense of width.
Okay.
So you have to be careful with it. Same thing with the delay. You have to be careful with those. But you're going to really open up the center with that.
Yeah, I mean, I know it makes no musical sense because you have one that's -10, one that's +10, but I could still hear the +10 just going. I mean, I
Like,
get. Yeah. I'm just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
my ears.
But let's listen to it in context. Let's put all of this shit on.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch.
And you see all the shit going on behind. Yeah. So it just gets lost.
Yep.
So that's what's cool about that. I'm trying to think. Let it play. I'll let it play at the end. It's so up front right now. And I'm just going to make it worse because fuck, why not? Shall we? All right, so I did the pitch. A couple other things that I'm going to do. You were talking about like a harmonic enhancement. So here's one we can do. Let's do this, that, and then I'm basically going to go to harmonic. I'm going to put, where's the precision enhancer? So this is just a harmonic enhancer. And I want to take that.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not.
And now you got mouth noises.
Yep.
Because we're so up front. So we got to bury this a little bit. But this is great for an entire mix because now you're taking the whole high end of everything. If you send everything to this, you're just going to shape your track like that harmonically without just taking any cue and going, which is not what you want to do. So I'm going to bury this a little bit.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch. I never told to turn this poverty to gold, to claim our youth, but feel so old. I'm standing too close to the rail.
This is getting so over the top. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. This is getting so over the top. I said it would. Is Spacejhit still here? I want to show him something that he's going to like. And that is doing this. And this is like your grunge channel or your grit. Grot. Grit.
I am grot.
I am grot. All right, so this is kind of specifically for you. This is something that I like doing, but I don't like pushing it super hard. And this can help you, and that's basically to take a version through the send. I'm going to put some kind of guitar amp on it. And I don't know what any of these fucking things do. So I'm just going to pick this one. If it loads. Ooh. Ooh, okay. Don't scare me, Pro Tools. So we're going to have, that's in pre. Yeah, okay.
I watched you steal from young and old.
And so now we can mix the two.
I watched you steal from young.
And we can dial in on the amp. But what's cool, and we were talking about this, is if you want to go a step further, you could, I'm going to try doing this. And if this doesn't work, I'm going to try one more thing. You could just widen it.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch, I never told to turn this poverty to gold, to claim our youth, but feel so.
I'm just slapping plugins on it. You could dial this in. You could get you could do an EQ before this to really tune it. But this is where you can get, and because you have control over your sends, you can do like,
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch, I never told to turn this poverty to.
so now you can be programming. Yeah, it's a distorted sound, but it's a controllable distorted sound. And so you can have, like, if you want, I know that like the way that you mix, you like distorting stuff or like bit crushing stuff. If you wanted to make it so you had the clean and the distort at the same time, this would be how you do it. So you could move in and out of having like an overly distorted sound on certain parts and then dial back and have like a really like a perceivable sound. Like people know what you're saying and then they don't know what you're saying. Or you can have a middle ground for the two of them. And that's how you do that, is through an effects chain.
Yeah, and the cool thing about, especially with the amp plugin, is you can actually change what the effect is. You could do flanger, you could do phaser, you could do.
Yeah, I can push this harder, or I can put something else on it.
Yep.
I have no idea. I just literally threw this on. I have no idea.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch, I never told to turn this poverty to gold, to claim our youth, but feel so old.
Whatever. Whatever. I'm going to turn this down. But it's the control factor is what it is, having that control. I think I've covered pretty much all of the different kinds of things that you can put. I'm gonna actually turn this down on the output.
I watched you steal from.
All right, I'm gonna play it through. Kim wants me to play it through. I'm gonna play it through.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch, I never told to turn this poverty to gold, to claim our youth, but feel so old. I'm standing too close to the rail. I'm trembling, terribly turning pale. Come push me, baby, while I'm frail. Go twist the story, sell the tale.
We were walking to my car. You turned and said, I don't know who you are anymore. We were driving in my car. You turned and said, I don't care who you are anymore. But now we're crashing in my car. The car comes to a stop. I tried my best to be yours alone, but you'd agree that I'm better in the company of who speaks of retribution, how revenge can set us free. So now I'm climbing out the car, would've cut your seatbelt, but I forgot who you are, so I watched the car melt. Hey!
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch, I never told to turn this poverty to gold, to claim our youth but feel so old. I'm standing too close to the rail, I'm trembling, terribly turning pale. Come push me, baby, while I'm frail. Go twist the story, sell the tale.
You were walking towards the light. You turned and said, I don't think this is right anymore. And now you've reached the end of the line, and everything is not fine anymore.
I watched you steal from young and old. I did not snitch, I never told to turn this poverty to gold, to claim our youth but feel so old. I'm standing too close to the rail, I'm trembling, terribly turning pale. Come push me, baby, while I'm frail. Go twist the story, sell the tale.
There you go. All right. I'm going to turn this off and not save it. Do you want to switch cameras so that way it's just us, maybe? Do we have a just us cam? Yeah. And then I'm going to dial in. I'm going to open up a new session. I'm going to down. Holy crap. How did you get that emoji? Emote. That's amazing.
It's a chain.
Yeah. Let me pull up Spacejhit stuff real quick. Gotta log in. How amazingly it's still on this computer. Any questions? Any questions? What are your questions? What are your guys' questions? What are your questions?
Not really a question, but a statement. But just like kind of from what we've been hearing, what I'm hoping to hear and excited to hear after this stream, and seeing what people take from it and go on with it. Like especially like if Spaceship from last week, right? That completely blew me away, and then putting all this stuff on there would kill it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and hopefully what this does is it starts the rabbit hole, basically. Okay, I need to go into there and pull out Spaceship stuff. How do I do that? Come on. Freaking technology. All right. MP3. One MP3. All right. Spaceship, do you just want me to listen to this? Download. Let me know as it downloads. Explosion. There was a cartoon movie that Rob Zombie made, and there was a song that there was like a car chase scene, and the whole song was like this heavy rock song, and the whole song lyrics were just narrating exactly what was happening on the screen. So, but like to a T. So like they come out of like a tunnel and there's an explosion, and the song starts. It's like explosion. Da 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 da. I think it was a movie. I think it was the something World of El Super Beasto. Was it? Yeah, explosion. All right, let's see what we got here. Is it just it's one MP3? All right.
It's a single MP3.
One MP3. Roger that. Let me go to
Seven,
workspace.
two. One is aggressive, one is chill. Let me know what you would change.
Living Dead Girl is, dude. If you sit down, listen to the album that came off of Hellbilly Deluxe, is one of the best albums I've ever heard. And it's still, I listened to it like not too long ago, and it's been 20 years since it came out, and that thing still holds up. Let me see here. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
It's the something world. What's it? The haunted world of El Super Visto. Yeah. Here's one. I'm pulling this in the Pro Tools. Give me one sec. New session. Create. I'm calling the session Untitled and putting it on the desktop. like a good mastering engineer should. Let's pull this in. Will it pull in from here? Pull this.
Lol.
Please. I don't use. This is what I use. This is what I use for mixing. This is what I use for mastering. Like I can argue this point. I can meme, argue with me over this. Because the most superior thing that Pro Tools does is the routing, the busing, all of the stuff that like what they were saying to look up on YouTube. Pro Tools is like built around that kind of stuff. So when I do it and it looks easy, it's because for Pro Tools it is. What was the other song that you sent? Let me look in here real quick.
I said there was a 2.
Yeah, let me check in our demo submissions folder. Oh, there is. Got it.
It is a 2.
Yes, thank you for naming them so succinctly.
Specifically not fuck your metadata.
Specifically, don't fuck your metadata. Okay. All right, you can switch over to Pro Tools if you want. There, Kim. All right, let's play this first one. Descending into Orlando, into the storm. Is it still raining outside? I'll never know because my phone doesn't do anything anymore.
I mean, that and like
Yeah, he's on his way back now.
that and like the soundproofing too. I'd imagine.
Yeah. When it's really loud, you can hear the storms, but only when it's really loud. All right, let me. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna go ahead and smash a limiter on it. That's like your first round of like super basic. Super basic. I would do a lot more, but just to get it done, to make it loud, limiter. So you're looking at it from like a mastering standpoint or from like a mixing standpoint? Because I really like the lows in this. I'm gonna do some stuff real quick. Let's be technical with this. Let's hit this with a where's the Paz? Let's hit this with a frequency analyzer and see what we're up against. Yeah, let me have a look at it. I can see that's an MP3. What's interesting is like look at this dip right here. That is MP3. Purely MP3. If this is a full wave, that wouldn't be there. There's like other shit artifacts, but that's one of the biggest giveaways. Let me throw that there. Let me turn these off. Let me put an EQ on it real quick. Let me have that on the screen too. All right. You know what? I'm gonna do something else too. Let me do this. That. Let's see here. So I'm gonna basically get into, one day I'll talk to you guys about multibands, but not today.
Not this night.
Not this night. We would be here for another 2 hours. Like, it is a whole lesson that I give on mastering. But basically, I'm just going to do very light compression on the lows. Yeah, no, I know, and I appreciate that. So
It's time to work, yeah, you know I'ma stay on my grind. Yeah, first, and the chicken my mom with the fight. See, it's to the ices, and I need for nurses. I go with the dagger, I don't know. They say if it's worth it, it takes some. They don't wanna get it, nigga, I ain't finished.
Little baby loop. Little baby loop.
It's time to work, yeah, you know I'ma stay on my grind. Yeah, first, and the chicken my mom with the fight. See, it's to the ices, and I need for nurses. I go with the dagger, I don't know. They say if it's worth it, it takes some. They don't wanna get it, nigga, I ain't finished. It's time to work, yeah, you know I'ma stay on my grind. Yeah, first, and the chicken my mom with the fight. See, it's to the ices, and I need for nurses. I go with the dagger, I don't know. They say if it's worth it, it takes some. They don't wanna get it, nigga, I ain't finished. It's time to work, yeah, you know I'ma stay on my grind.
So it's not bad. It's pretty straightforward. If you want to do if you want to do a deep dive into sending out like parallel stuff, like the effects sends that we were talking about, you could do some like more distorted stuff on the outside, like with the guitar amp or any kind of distortion plugin. For me, quick and dirty, just as an overall for this song, I did a C4 multiband, but for the mid-range, I'm expanding. So I'm expanding maybe like we'll say like 200 to 26,000. And that's just to make the ear like it. Like, just to give a little bit of life, because the bass is hitting so hard that it's like compressing on its own, and it's kind of taking away from that range. So I'm essentially just adding it back in to give it some life and make the ear really happy. And then I just slapped a Pultec with those settings that I used before on, with a boost at 4, broad bandwidth at about 4K, just to give it some overtones, give it some harmonics.
It's time to work, yeah, you know I'ma stay on my grind. Yeah, first, and the chicken my mom with the fight. See, it's to the ices, and I need for nurses.
Do you see how it's like a little bit more lively? It's just got a little bit more energy. Even though it's a chill song, it's just got a little bit more like pump and energy to it.
Yeah, as I like to say, it's now thick with 3 Qs.
Yeah. There you go. Does that translate over Twitch? I'm just curious, or like streaming in general. It's popping more. Yeah. All that this is doing is adding energy. So like, let me pull this up. Oh, that's already. Here's something for you guys. Equal loudness contour. This is how the human ear reacts to sound. So if you can do things, now this is inverted, but if you can do things that help this range, it's more noticeable. And yeah, like you said, it's fuller. So if you can do things in this range that like help excite, like for example, I didn't compress, I expanded that range, and that makes the ear like, oh wow, this is more energetic. I'm just using the way that we hear to our advantage here by expanding and pushing that. And then the same thing here, like 4K sits right on the top of that range. So I'm just giving it a little bit, and I'm using a Pultec because I'm not EQing necessarily, I'm just harmonically boosting it there. So I'm giving it more harmonics, which our ear likes. So I'm just playing to how the ear works. It's not bad. It's actually pretty good. Like me needing to just do that and then basically just start by giving it a couple decibels means that you're pretty good. You're pretty close. Let me check out this other track real quick. Yes, I love this. I love the distortion. This is that distortion I was talking about. I'm going to try to just move the settings. I'm going to try the same exact settings. And see what happens. I'm gonna give the low just a little bit more gain. I'm gonna treat this multiband like an EQ and just give the low a little bit more gain. All right, I'm gonna do one more thing and then I'm done. And then I'm done. I'm gonna do a sub-frequency synthesizer, or sub-harmonic synthesizer, and basically generate even lower tones on this, and see if we can pull out the very lows. I need to put the maximum after. It's so... Yeah. I'd have to sit with this. What am I doing with the purple waves, orange lines? Okay, so good question. That is the Wave C4 multiband dynamics. So what's happening here is that this is because my range is minus, I'm in compression. So anytime this orange threshold gets met, it's compression. This is an expander, which is the opposite of compression. The peaks, instead of getting squished, are going to get made larger. So I'm adding energy here. And then these are all in compression. So basically, I'm just doing light compression across your whole song, except for the mid-range, and then I'm expanding and making more peaks and energy there. There's a whole explanation to that. It's basically because natural compressors will compress across the board, and this range gets harmed the most. So I'm basically undoing that and giving it more energy. So I'm just using the human ear. And then the subharmonic synthesizer. For you, for whatever reason on this song, I feel like the lows, like the very lows, like this frequency band is lacking. I feel like right down here. So if we could somehow like bring that back in, I'm just going to do something I shouldn't do, which is just take that band and expand it. And all I hear is my compressors pumping. But if we could somehow enhance that for you, and that would be like a subharmonic synthesizer. So I'm gonna leave you with that. Look up things like subharmonic synthesizers. There's one called Low Ender. I think there's one called Submarine. There's one called Waves has Low Air. Is that what it's called? And that basically will examine the frequency range. Yeah, low air. Examine a frequency range and then generate the harmonic below that synthetically. It's a synthesizer. And for you, like, this sounds good. But I feel like it needs a level below it to really just be shaking everything. But the first one's great. The first one's really good. I'm really curious to see what you do with all this stuff. I hope that this has become a rabbit hole. I hope this does terrible things to you that keep you up at night, needing to know like what was that? Why did that? What, like, I hope that's what happens.
You wake up in a cold sweat.
Yeah.
And you see nothing but EQ
Yeah.
on the ceiling.
Yeah. Yeah. With like low end boosts. Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. That's what this is. Welcome to my world. I think that's it for me. I think that's it for us. Q just landed. I think I have to deliver this stuff back to his house tonight. Huh? So he's gonna do his show tomorrow. Tomorrow John will be doing his
Q and friends.
Q and friends. Thank you. And then he'll be out on Sunday. Yo, thanks for coming to hang out as usual. It's not a
always
couch.
Pleasure. It's not a couch, but
not a
hey,
couch.
it's a studio. Like
Yeah.
literally almost 3 years ago, met you here.
Yeah, this is where we started doing. This is the mastering room, and next door is the A studio where me and Nick met each other and started hanging out. Amp says this was a dope stream. Thank you, man. Thanks for the good questions, Amp, and Spacejhit, and everybody else who asked good questions. I really appreciate it. That's my teaching style. My teaching style is to get asked a question, and I will start the rabbit hole. Yeah, I hope it is a hell of a podcast. I hope that the levels were okay. We tried really hard to keep everything like in check. Yeah. If you guys want, if you submitted, and obviously we didn't get to any submissions tonight. If I'll talk to Q and maybe we can just start next show with the last week, or if you want to resubmit, maybe you can move yourself forward. We'll talk about it. We'll let you guys know how that goes. Yeah, that's Mr. Altismo. The person hiding behind the chat is Kim. I don't know if anybody's seen her, but she's there.
She does exist.
She does exist. I can prove it if you kind of look right here. Yeah, see? Right above the chat. So cool. Yeah. Ending on time. Amp, yes. To everyone, the podcast is officially on all service providers. We are officially on Apple. So, and surprisingly, we have a lot of people that listen to our podcast. I'm kind of blown away. So, thanks for listening. You won't have the visuals in front of you, but maybe you can imagine this getting mixed. I don't know.
I mean, I think this one will definitely be one that you should want to tune in and rewatch on YouTube. And
yeah,
go check out the YouTube channel, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it, because especially something like this where it's all 99% visual.
Yeah. I'm gonna maybe we can turn this into like an actual YouTube thing. Thanks for hanging out, Spacejhit. I really appreciate your questions. But we're gonna get out of here. So I don't have an ending song. We're just gonna end. All right.
Let's just make a song.
Yep. There. We're gonna be there. That's the song.
Yep.
All right.